embarrassing stories about Ron Turner, but there are just too many to choose from. And I probably have to implicate myself. As you all know, Ron Turner is the underground art world's most notorious rogue publisher. Relentless name dropper, woman ogler, and dirty joke teller, Ron is probably the luckiest guy in the world. Not only does he have a great family, but now we can all call him Grandpa. Thank you. Anyway, I wouldn't want to spoil Ron's big night, not when there are so many people waiting in the wings to do that even better. Some people might call Ron Turner a cheap, unrepentant vulgarian, and they might be right. But I'm proud to call him my best friend. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to say, truly, Ron, you're a royal pain in the ass, and I hope you take your Geritol before bedtime. Congratulations, and enjoy your big night.
The Bay Area. The print mint operating out of Berkeley. Rip-Off Press, founded by a bunch of crazy Texans, transplanted to San Francisco, and Last Gasp, Ron's Brainstorm, which published arguably the best quality underground comics, lasted the longest, and maintained a cutting edge right down to the present. So my first message to Ron is this: you've done a marvelous job, you're a living legend, and do not doubt that we love you. But that said, this is a roast, and on behalf of all the cartoonists you published over the years, let me assure you, Ron, that you will not escape unscathed. For example, I'm sure I'm not the only artist who had business dealings with Ron who had to cope with the good Ron, bad Ron phenomenon. We're all familiar with the good cop, bad cop routine, where two cops are trying to extract confession, or at least cooperation, from a suspect. One cop plays sympathetic, and the other plays hard-nosed. Ron's unnerving gift was that he could play both roles, and on any given day, you never knew which Ron would show up. I used to go down to Last Gasp to discuss business, which usually amounted to proposing a new comic or trying to collect on royalties of reprints of comics. And it seemed a total toss-up as to which Ron I'd have to deal with. The good-humored and generous Ron, or the dyspeptic and skinflint Ron. In retrospect, I suspect that this may have been a function of Ron writing the daily cash flow of a small publishing empire. But as an artist and editor whose income was intimately tied to Last Gasp's fortunes, my visits to Last Gasp were fraught with anxiety. Which Ron would show up? You just never knew. Perhaps it was determined by sunspots or planetary alignments, but I could never predict ahead of time. Then there's Ron's role as mischievous, naughty boy. This wasn't quite the same as the good Ron, bad Ron phenomenon. I didn't sense any manipulation of one's expectations. This was just Ron being irrepressibly Ron. The most memorable example I can recall was at a relatively elegant dinner party at a San Francisco mansion, which involved John Goodchild, who had been the designer of Oz, the infamous British underground magazine. And Goodchild was now a designer for Straight Arrow, the book publishing arm of Rolling Stone magazine back when it was still in San Francisco. Good food, good wine, good company. What more could one ask for? Well, I guess we were lacking.
Ron! And Ron looked up and said, Norm! I just want to, Susie was here. I remember when she was trying to get pregnant and we showed up at the office and Ron started chasing her around with a turkey baster. But I got asked to tell a real specific story, and it's a truly great one, and I feel really honored to tell this story. So I'm just going to get into it. It was Jack Davis, the political consultant's 50th birthday party. And all the politicos came out in all their pomp and glory. $1,000 suits, women in jewels and black evening gowns. Jack Davis was the campaign manager who had gotten the last 2 mayors of San Francisco elected. He was in charge of a referendum drive to get a new stadium and shopping mall built for the Niners. Jack made and broke politicians. To incur his wrath was the equivalent of a political death sentence. Every politician in town and half of Sacramento was there. All the supervisors were there. The DA, the sheriff, the mayor. Jack had a reputation as a man of strange taste, so there were a number of freaky elements dispersed through the crowd at his birthday party. At a table, a tattooist was tattooing someone. A man strolling about in latex shorts had Christmas tree balls and lead fishing weights hanging from hooks dug into his bare chest and back. A woman with a huge tattoo of a many-armed Shiva with multiple penises ejaculating walked by. Nude dancers were gyrating up on stage, but for the most part, the audience was overwhelmingly straight and conservative. Lots of suits and women dressed to the nines. The majority of them were either politicians or media people. Ron was in charge of the entertainment for this affair. So who did he book? This bloodletting performance art band, the United Satanic Apache Front. The show started with a heavy metal guitarist playing headbanger riffs over layers of samples being cooked up on synthesizer. Then Steve Leba, the frontman, comes out in some leather mask bondage device. Steve turned away from the audience, and this dominatrix in a black rubber dress walked up and cut a huge pentagram into his back with a knife, making half-inch deep incisions. The blood drips down from the fresh cuts. The dominatrix catches the blood in a tin bowl she holds at the base of his back. Then Steve squats down between the dominatrix's legs. She pulls up her dress, rips open her lace pantyhose, and pisses down his back through the fresh incisions. Once again, the dominatrix catches the urine and blood in the bowl she holds at the base of his back. It was about half full by the time she was done. Then Steve stands up, turns to the audience, and drinks the bowl full of blood and urine. Around me, all these people are saying, all these suits or people in suits are saying things like, "Oh, I am definitely not drunk enough for this," or "I feel ill." Some junior league preppy next to me gasped, "He must have his back shot full of Novocaine or something." And I turned to him and said, "Nah, he doesn't enjoy this unless he can really feel the pain." The Republican supervisor just ran straight out of the room. They didn't even get to the Jack Daniels ritual before the management pulled the plug on them and put on pop disco music. Get down on the floor, I wanna boogie, oogie, oogie, till I just can't boogie no more. Comes blaring through the speakers, while Steve and the rest of the band give everyone the finger. The straight-laced politicos try to comatosely dance off their shock. A number of them lurch into a spastic suburban version of the hustle. After about 5 minutes of bad music and frenzied backstage negotiations, they let Steve go on again. Guess the politicos didn't want to give the impression they were trying to censor anyone. That can be bad for your poll numbers in a place like San Francisco. So Steve stands up in front of everyone and says, "Alcohol fucked my people, and now you're about to watch alcohol fuck me." Steve takes off his pants. Then Daniel Willis walks up dressed as Pocahontas in the Disney movie and proceeds to butt fuck the hell out of him with a strap-on Jack Daniels bottle. Now this was a big bottle of Jack Daniels. It looked like the half-gallon size. She put on a little KY to lube it, but it didn't do anything for the circumference. It was like that big around. Pocahontas was really wailing on his ass with an animalistic fervor. She fucked him so hard, the Jack Daniels bottle popped out of the strap-on and was left hanging from his butt. Then Steve pulled the bottle of liquor out of his anus, cracked open the seal, and took a big drink from it. He offered the bottle to the politicians in the front of the crowd. There were no takers. Most of them just ran away in abject horror. And of course, Ron was up front yelling, "Careful if you drink from it. There must be one hell of a backwash on that bottle." Later that night, Jack Davis was cutting up birthday cake and serving it to the politicians. Blood from the performance art act had gotten all over the cake, and Jack just cut the cake up and served it to the politicians, who ate it down, blood and all. After the United Satanic Apache Front did their little act, Ron took me through the crowd and introduced me to all of the politicians. He asked each one what they thought of the show. Many were still in shock. The DA could hardly speak. But the sheriff, Mike Hennessy, was different. What did you think of the entertainment, Sheriff? Ron asked. I mean, he was just fucking twisting the knife in him. Oh, I thought it was great, Hennessy said. See, I used to go to punk rock shows. I'm really into punk. Used to go to the Mabuhay Gardens back in the day. Saw the Sex Pistols on their first U.S. tour and the Clash. When reporters from the Chronicle asked the sheriff what he thought of the show, his only comment was, "That was a waste of a perfectly good bottle of liquor." Mike Stevens, the keyboardist in the United Satanic Apache Front, used to be one of my roommates when I lived up in the Haight years ago. Mike had been really upset. He thought the gig was a failure because the band got the plug pulled on them before they got to finish their set. But when Ron introduced him to the sheriff, Mike had a much better appraisal of the gig. At that point, Steve walked up to us. He was still drinking from the huge Jack Daniels bottle he had been fucked up the ass with. "Give me a hit off that bottle," Mike said. Steve handed him the Jack. "What the hell," Mike commented as he took a big swig. "I didn't get hepatitis after I took a drink at our last gig." At midnight, Warren Hinkle let 10 live pigs loose to run through the crowd. When this party hit the mainstream media on Monday morning, it was the biggest shitstorm of the decade. Front page of the Chronicle for the entire week. All the local media raged over it for weeks. There was one day that Last Gasp was completely surrounded by TV trucks and cameras, and I was just walking around to the windows, putting books up in them to give them free advertising. There was a skit about it on Saturday Night Live. This party went viral before there was an internet. Across the country, editorials were written claiming this party was a metaphor for everything that was wrong with politics generally and San Francisco specifically. It was Ron Turner's greatest prank. It was one of the greatest pranks in all of prankdom. 6 months later, I was eating dinner with my mother-in-law back east in the Hamptons when I mentioned I had been at this party, and my mother-in-law blew a gasket. "How could you go to something like that?" she screamed. "I read about that party in the New York Times. That party was the downfall of Western civilization." So thanks, Ron, for inviting me to a party that led to the downfall of Western civilization. Mission accomplished. And on a personal note, I love you guys. You all helped me through hard times, and you've been wonderful people. And thank you so much for letting me be a part of your circus for God knows how many years. And I also wanted to say thanks to everybody who talked about the books, because the books.
That's what she said. Well, it's a good thing I can't see you all. But thank you so much. The great people, of course, are all those who have worked at Last Gasp and all the artists and writers. Because without any of those, and each one of those, I'd still be picking cotton down in Fresno. So I really like you all, and I thank you very much. After tonight, it'd be too long to get into it now, but we will address all those allegations that But I did know Norman, I did know Manson, I did know Lee Harvey Oswald. So go figure, and Jim Jones, go figure. Absolutely. I wouldn't have a great son like Colin if it wasn't for his mother, Carol Stevenson.
Thanks, Ron. That's our show, everybody. This is what came. Oh, I broke the microphone. Great. Thanks a lot for being here, and you've made everybody's lives here better. And everybody here has been extremely blessed to have you in it. We need to shut this show down. And I'd like to mention that we do have posters in the lobby. We're saying